All right, it is 6:05, so I'm going to get started again. My name is Michael Kretsch. I'm the proud principal here at Bagby Elementary. Welcome to the 21-22 school year. We are thrilled to be able to welcome back kids starting on our first day of school, which will be next Thursday, August 19th, starting at 8:05 a.m. My hope this evening is to be able to give the community information regarding about how we're going to be coming back to school, but then also kind of talking about what the school day is going to look like, how we're going to do arrival and dismissal, what lunch and recess will look like, and what kind of extracurricular activities your kids will still get to participate in. So again, I'm recording the Zoom, so please make sure that you keep your video off and you're muted until the Q&A session at the end. I'm going to be sharing out this YouTube video with our entire community tomorrow via YouTube. And again, at the end, during that Q&A section, if you have any questions, raise your Zoom hand. You'll pop up on my window. I'll be able to call you. Feel free to unmute at that time, ask your question. And again, if you happen to have any additional questions after having a night's sleep on anything that I presented tonight, or even going into next week, don't hesitate to email me and or fill out the Google form that I shared out with the community last Friday in my email. And I will attempt to respond to as many of the pre-meeting questions. I believe I received about 21 or 22 from last week's Google form. So I'll try to address as many of those in my slides as possible, and then follow up in future communications. So thank you to our entire school community for your understanding, your flexibility, your support over the past year and a half. It has been a year and a half for sure for all of us, and in particular for a school community. In particular, your partnership in March through June was invaluable. We could not have brought kids back safely to school without your partnership. And I wanted to sincerely thank each and every one of you for that. Our priority for 21-22 is keeping our school open safely for on-campus learning for all of our students for the maximum number of days, while also supporting their academic, social, and emotional growth of every single kid. It is our goal to not have to shift back to Zoom. If we have to, we will. I think we've all learned that there's a degree of flexibility that we've all kind of grown to understand and appreciate that we all have to have. However, it is our goal to maintain our classrooms open for the maximum number of kids for the maximum number of days during the 21-22 school year. And I think given your partnership over the past year and a half, the protocols we have in place, the hard work our staff has put in, I think we can do it. So as I just mentioned, our community partnership is what it took to bring everybody back safely in the spring. And that hasn't changed. We are still going to need partnership of students, of families, of district office staff, and also our own Bagby staff as well. That will continue to need to be a strong partnership as we work together to deal with any changes in the circumstances that we all face. So just like last year, a lot of this presentation is going to be pretty similar to the presentation I gave at multiple points last spring as we came back first in our hybrid model and then again in May for our full instructional day, 4 days a week. Some of the protocols have slightly changed given updated guidelines, and so I kind of want to walk through what our current tiered safety protocols are. So at the base, again, we have to look at school safety as a tiered system. It takes all of these tiers and it takes all of us kind of playing our role to maximize safety. So first, community efforts. Down at the bottom, the foundation of what we do. Cambrian School District encourages all eligible individuals in our community to get vaccinated. Additionally, wearing masks in congested spaces, in particular during arrival and dismissal, we strongly encourage families to wear masks when we're in congested areas, even if we're outside during arrival and dismissal. Not only is it the safest thing to do, but it also sets a good tone for your kids as a role model. Additionally, making sure that we're washing our hands. That's what we got to do. We've been taught this from a very young age, but we need to make sure that we're doing it in particular now. Symptomatic, children and staff, anybody experiencing symptoms must stay home. This was a critical piece in how we were able to bring kids back safely to school in the spring. Families were responsible. When kids had symptoms, they notified us, they kept their kids at home, and we walk them through the protocols from there. But that level of community engagement, we need to make sure that families continue to take their child's pulse, keep a pulse on their child's daily health. And I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Mask wearing at Bagby. So masks are a requirement for all people on campus while indoors. So that includes all staff, all students, and all visitors to our front office. Masks are also strongly encouraged except during eating, drinking, or taking periodic mask breaks. We're going to really be diving into kind of a culture of shared safety and responsibility with our students, that in order to keep our doors open for the maximum number of days possible, it's going to take everybody, including each one of them, making safe choices. Additionally, our students and staff are going to make sure that we're doing frequent hand washing and that sanitizing is practiced throughout the day. Anytime a student exits or enters a classroom, there's going to be hand sanitizing before and after being outside for recess and lunch, and certainly before eating meals. Hand washing will be key. Facilities cleaning. So our custodial staff will continue with their daily cleaning protocols, which include a focus on high-touch surfaces. Our air filters are regularly changed, and there are deep cleaning procedures and protocols in place of indoor space if we do happen to have a positive exposure. And then last but not least is distancing. So eating outdoors in classroom groups will be how we're approaching students having snacks and meals at recess, for brunch, and then at lunchtime. And then during those times when students are eating and drinking, eating those meals, students will be distanced apart, and supervising staff will be making sure that that distance is maintained. All of these protocols were largely in place in the spring, and they were highly effective. So I really feel that we're going to be easily able to transition into this new school year utilizing a lot of these protocols. So self-screening. So last year in the spring, as most of you probably who are joining this evening can recall, daily you had to fill out a daily health check on an app. We're no longer going to be doing that Qualtrics survey. Instead, families are going to be responsible for self-screening. So during the spring, we had Bagby families who were impacted directly by COVID-19. We were able to keep our doors open March through June, not having to close cohorts or classrooms, not just because of luck. It honestly came down to because our community did its part on a daily basis to make sure that if a kid was symptomatic, they stayed home and did not expose peers. And it also showed that our protocols worked. So I think our staff was grateful that we had the positive experience that we had in the spring, and we're very confident that we're going to be able to do it for 21-22 as well. But it's going to continue to need, we're going to continue to need your support as families, doing your part and making sure that you're keeping an eye on your kids' health on a daily basis. And if at any point they're symptomatic, you're keeping them home. If families have an interest in or need a little guidance in terms of what symptoms might be for COVID at this point, the CDC has a great coronavirus self-check that you can actually link here. When I share out this presentation tomorrow, it's hyperlinked in the presentation, and you can easily click that, and it walks you through a series of simple questions that identifies whether or not your child should quarantine and or be tested. So as I mentioned, do not send your kid to school if they're sick. Report any exposures of potential positive COVID-19 cases of your child, or if in fact they test positive, to our front office staff. Once our staff is notified, there'll be certain protocols that we will walk you through. And there are certain requirements for when your child can return. They're kind of listed there, but I think it's better for you to take the time just kind of read through those instead of me listing them off. And then in the event that your child is exposed, our front office staff is knowledgeable in guiding you through the protocols and bringing them back to school and what steps must be met before they can do that. So additional health protocols and procedures. So let's say a child does come to school asymptomatic, but during the day they develop symptoms. How is staff going to respond? So if a child does become symptomatic, instructional staff, teachers, supervision staff will direct them to the front office. Up here in the office, our office staff will do a quick evaluation based on COVID-19. Sorry, I'm just going to make sure everybody's muted. Our staff will make sure that we go through all the variety of potential symptoms. And if your child is exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19, you will be contacted. Within 30 minutes, we request that families come and pick up the child. And during the time that they're waiting for you, they will either wait in our care room up here in the front office, which is separate from our health office, or if warm weather is permitting, then they'll be able to sit outside on one of our office benches and be supervised there by staff. And if a positive COVID-19 exposure is verified, all close contacts of that individual will be contacted, and they will be updated based on Santa Clara County Public Health protocols. Those will be the things that we use to guide next steps in terms of quarantining and testing. If a positive exposure does take place on campus, the entire school community will be notified. However, if you're not a close contact, you won't be shared with, you won't be given specifics. So we need to take care of one another. As I've said, community is the community's efforts last spring and again this fall are going to be immensely important in keeping our doors open. So we need to continue to take care of one another. Masks, again, are going to be a requirement for all students and staff and office visitors while they're indoors, unless there is an inability that is documented by either medical personnel or part of a disability. Masks also strongly encouraged outdoors, so except while eating, drinking, or taking mask breaks, as I mentioned before, and masks should be worn by all during arrival and dismissal due to congestion. And again, like I mentioned, culture of shared safety. This is what we're going to be really promoting with our students, is that we each play a role in keeping one another safe and keeping our doors open, so we don't need to shift back to Zoom this year. So we'll be teaching our kids that they play that active role and they need to do their part on a daily basis. And as role models, super important that you do your part during drop-off, pickup time, and during office visits, not only to keep staff and students safe, but also one another. So cleaning and facilities. So I'm going to go through 6 different components of our cleaning and facilities plans. So hand sanitizers have been installed in every single room. Students are required to wash or sanitize their hands, upon re-entry to the classroom every single time. Even if they just came to the bathroom, and even if they say they just washed their hands, it is part of the protocol that students are either hand washing or sanitizing their hands upon return to the classroom. All high-touch surfaces are going to be cleaned on a daily basis. And if you're interested in learning more about what products CSD custodial staff are using, they're linked here. And that link is actually will take you to the district's website where they're also listed. Hydrostatic spraying will be used in the event of a positive exposure. I don't know if you've seen the commercials, but hydrostatic spraying, they're large sprayers with sanitizing liquid in them. It kind of creates an aerosol that then settles on surfaces and sanitizes those surfaces. And these materials and guns will be used in the event of a positive exposure on campus to sanitize potentially impacted surfaces. Our HVAC units are still being, an HVAC assessment, was completed last winter. And as a result, our HVAC units are cycling from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On a daily basis. And in every single occupied internal space, CO2 monitors have been installed to make sure that air is circulating at an appropriate rate. Additionally, MERV 13 filters have been installed in all interior spaces, and those are routinely replaced as well. COVID-19 testing and vaccination. So from a staff perspective, CSD Cambrian as a whole has high vaccination rates amongst our staff. And CSD will also be conducting weekly on-site staff testing for any unvaccinated staff, in alignment with the most recent governor's orders. Additionally, for students, CSD will be providing optional testing for non-symptomatic students who are deemed close contacts at school. So if your child is deemed to be a close contact of a positive case here at school, the school will be providing optional testing for your child so that they can continue to come to school during that time as long as they are asymptomatic. So what is a close contact? A close contact is indoor exposure within 6 feet for greater than 15 minutes during those 24 hours. And additionally, Cambrian is making plans with the testing company to begin to offer weekly optional testing for all students, regardless of whether or not they've been exposed to a positive case or not. So I kind of want to transition away from the protocols that are going to allow us to kind of bring kids back safely but also start talking a little bit about the nitty-gritty of what 21-22 school year is going to look like. Again, we are so excited to have our kids back at school on the first day of school and not to be beginning school on Zoom. So we have a new bell schedule. This new bell schedule was designed in conjunction with the other elementary schools so that there is instructional minute alignment across the district. And then also we wanted to make sure that we added a small amount of instructional minutes throughout the course of every single day, so that at the end of the year, if we happen to have an emergency closure of the entire school and we're not able to have school open, if there happened to be a gas leak or there was an electrical line down and school had to be closed, we would not have to make up additional days at the end of the year. So by shifting the schedule slightly, we've been able to add enough instructional minutes on a daily basis to give us some additional days at the end of the year, a buffer. So what the new bell schedule looks like is our gates will be opening at 8:05 a.m. Classes will begin at 8:15. Between 8:05 and 8:15, all students will enter into the campus and they will promptly go to their classrooms, where their teachers will either have already opened their doors or students will be lining up outside of them. There is no recess play in the morning, and supervision staff will be making sure to guide students, in particular during these first days of school, to their classrooms, helping them find their new rooms, but additionally making sure that students are being safe and making their way promptly either to their classroom line or directly into their classroom. And dismissal time is slightly different on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Our dismissal time for TK and Kinder will be 2 o'clock, for grades 1 and 2, 2:20, and for grades 4 and 5, 2:45. On Wednesdays, because it is our minimum day for professional development for our staff, we have a Wednesday release time at 1 o'clock for TK and Kinder, 1:20 for third grade, and 1:45 for fourth and fifth. So just 1 hour earlier than their typical release. Please note that transitional kindergarten and kindergarten will be released daily at 11:30 a.m. for the first 12 days of school. The first 3 weeks of school until September 3rd, Friday, September 3rd, TK and kindergartners are released at 11:30. This is so that the afternoons, after lunch for teachers, can be allocated to setting up appointments with those TK and kinder families so that those children can be assessed by those teachers. We want to make sure that we have a very, very good assessment of where each child's skills are so that we can best support them through the year. So that early dismissal allows that to happen. So student entrances, there are 3 places that your kids can come onto campus. They can come into any one of the gates that are demarked here. There is no specific gate assigned to classrooms or grade levels. I would suggest identifying which gate you think would be simplest for your child to get into their classroom, and or for you walking or dropping children off. So entrance A on the northwest corner of campus nearest our cafeteria. This is for our special education drop-offs only. This is for students who have transportation needs and supports. So we have a variety of different vehicles and buses who are coming through this circle to drop off students. Some of these students need additional time to transition out of the vehicle. So we ask that only SPED families are utilizing that traffic circle in the morning. Additionally, bikers and walkers can come through that gate. Entrance B, our main entrance, directly in front of our main office. This is for our vehicle drop-offs, but also for bikers and walkers. And entrance C on the southeastern portion of our campus is the Kirtner parking lot gate. And this is only for biking and walking, because students and families will have to walk through the parking lot. We request that there are absolutely no vehicle drop-off down there. We're a little bit worried. In years past, we have had incidences in which vehicles have caused injury to staff and students by doing drop-offs there. So we just want to make sure that we're preventing that. Please do not drop off by vehicle down in the Kirtner parking lot. This is for walk-ups and biking only. Additionally, there will be staff members at each gate to open it up at 8:05, and families, you are not allowed onto campus. In 2019, 2020, my first year here as principal, we used to be able to walk our kids right up to their classroom door. Because of COVID protocols, we're not allowed to do that at this time. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to get back to some semblance of normal in terms of our arrival to campus, in particular during the first few days of school. But at this time, families are not allowed to campus. So there actually will be cones set up demarcating where families can no longer pass. And we'll have staff out there on the first days of school to help welcome kids into campus and then also to guide them on campus. And for our TK and K families, our K1 and K2 classrooms are actually accessible directly via the front lawn. Those students will be able to walk straight down the sidewalk from our traffic circle and into their classrooms and exit that way. And then for our students who've been placed into Miss Stevenson or Miss Jensen's room, room 19 and room 15, both Miss Jensen, Miss Stevenson, and our other kindergartner teachers will be out there on the first days of school to welcome your kids to school and teach them how to get to their classroom. So we really hope that transitional support over the first few days will make the transition away from you and onto campus as easy as possible. Additionally, we have some classes that have in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade who have direct access to the front lawn. Those students will be able to use those doors if their classrooms are located in rooms 1 through 5. So here's a picture of our main entrance gate for anybody who is new. This is what it looks like. Feel free to show your students if this is the gate they'll be coming in. This is the cafeteria gate off of our cafeteria traffic circle. And here's our Kurtner parking lot gate. So morning drop off. For all of you who are returning from last spring, you kind of know what the deal is. Last spring, we have had to shift how walking takes place, how we do drop offs for walking and also for vehicle drop offs. So I think it's actually most useful if you see the arrival and dismissal YouTube video that I produced last May or end of April. And I'll be sharing out that link with the community tomorrow via my email to remind you of what the protocols and procedures and kind of walking paths are. We're going to keep these procedures in place for the near term. They worked really well to get people on efficiently and off efficiently. And it also kind of minimizes some bunching in different places on campus. And we're going to repeat it, at least for the near term, until we can kind of evaluate where our protocols are. And if public health conditions continue to improve over the upcoming months, then hopefully at some point we can kind of return to a little bit less restrictive and guided entrance and exit from campus. Masks are encouraged for all family members. Please don't leave the sidewalk areas. There are cones demarcating where families are welcome, and then after a point, it's students only. Please don't enter into the student only areas. And please don't, one of the things that is such a cherished piece of our Bagby community is so many people walk or bike their students to school. And typically this would become a social opportunity for us to gather on our front lawn, chat with someone, catch up. Please do not stop to socialize at this time. Our protocols worked really well last year for people to come drop their kids off. This really minimizes the bunching and the grouping and potentially helps us reduce any spread that we might have through our community. And if you can notice, we are utilizing again the internal lane of our traffic circles for exit walking paths off campus. So again, please, if you're confused by the visual or confused by my description, please reference the arrival and dismissal YouTube video that I'll send out tomorrow. So what will a classroom look like? Classrooms are going to look pretty normal. Some teachers might decide to have students grouped in pairs. Some have decided to place students at tables. Some are placing their students in rows just because of the number of students in their particular classroom. Some are putting them into groups of 3, groups of 2. And all of this is permissible given that physical distancing requirements are no longer in place. It's also critically important that teachers have the ability to balance what are best instructional practices with safety. So partnering, small group work, and collaboration are highly impactful instructional strategies, and we need to make sure that teachers have the license to implement them in the classroom. But teachers, if they are having students sitting within close proximity to one another for extended periods of time, teachers are also going to have an awareness of the duration of the activities, the duration of the exposure, and the proximities of kids, so that if we do have to do an unfortunate contact tracing, we're going to be able to do that effectively and efficiently. Classroom materials. So just like last spring, if materials are shared or supplies are shared, hand washing and or sanitizing will occur immediately after. Restrooms. We'll have some physically distanced markers outside each restroom if there happens to be a number of students in the restroom at any particular time. Hand washing is expected after every use. And of course, hands are sanitized again or washed again upon classroom reentry. So teachers are assuming that the students wash their hands in the bathroom, but we're expecting them still to sanitize their hands at every reentry to the classroom. And then our custodial staff is also cleaning the restrooms multiple times each day. So what will recess look like? This was one of the most common questions I received over the past week. What are recess and lunch going to look like? So for TK, I'm going to walk, this is for our transitional kindergartners and our kindergartners. This is actually a satellite view provided by Google Maps of our TK and kinder playground. As you can see, I've kind of highlighted 5 zones that our teachers are allowed to use. And during recess, which will occur from 10 to 10:20, and lunch, which occurs from 11:50 to 12:30, all students are eligible to go down to our cafeteria, receive a brunch or a lunch daily free, and then return back to their allocated zone for eating. So the teachers will rotate where each classroom is seated during recess and lunch over the course of our year. Eating is going to take place outside prior to the students playing. The goal is to have students washing their hands upon exit from the classroom, getting their meals either out of their own bags or going down to the cafeteria, and then eating them 6 feet distance in each allocated zone. So when students are unmasked, they're going to be distanced by 6 feet during eating. All students are encouraged to bring a reusable water bottle. So our drinking fountains are shut off. I'm sure you understand why, but our bottle filling stations are available on campus. There's 2 on campus, one out by the Barracuda tank and one in our hallway between classrooms 1 and 5. And then we also have faucets in the classroom that are available for students to fill their water well. So we strongly encourage, in particular during these hot late summer, early fall days of August and September and early October, that families send their children with a reusable water bottle. Students, if they happen to have any allergy to grass, since most of the eating will be taking place on grass, we do encourage that if your child is allergic to the grass, that they do bring a towel on a daily basis, and that's something that they can just store in their classroom once they've brought it. Like I mentioned before, staff will be ensuring that hand washing is occurring at exit and re-entrance from recess and lunch. Students will be encouraged to wear their masks at all times when they're not eating, drinking, or taking that mask break. And a change from last year is students will be permitted to play with other students from other classes outside. Much the same for our 1st through 5th graders, just a slightly different location. So we actually have 8 zones for eating on our upper grade level playgrounds and fields. So the times will be slightly different depending on the grade level. So our youngest students have recess from 10 to 10:20 and lunch from 11:50 to 12:30. Our older students, 3rd through 5th, have lunch or recess from 10:25 to 10:45 and lunch from 12:35 to 1:15. Same exact protocols will be in place as I just described for our TK and kinder students. What else is going to be going on in Bagby? Well, we're going to have live music. Mr. Mercado will be returning to campus for live PE instruction. Music will be taking place with Mr. Sanchez here at school. Our Art Vistas coordinator will also be here on campus to organize activities, art activities for each of our classrooms. So we're super excited to make sure that we have not only the academic support that we want to make sure that we're providing kids, but also that it's a robust experience in providing both music, PE, and art as well. At this time, volunteer-supported activities will be reevaluated approximately every 6 weeks by district leadership to determine when we can bring back volunteers. We know we have an amazing home and school club. We have amazing family volunteers who support with Project Cornerstone and a bunch of other activities. We want to make sure that we can get you back to campus as soon as it is safe to do so. But given that our priority is keeping our doors open for as many days as possible for our kids, at this time, we will not be having any volunteer supported activities on campus. But again, it will be reevaluated every 6 weeks. New dismissal times. So as I shared the updated bell schedule, TK and kindergarten are being dismissed at 2 o'clock on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. First through third, excuse me, are dismissed at 2:20 on those days, and fourth and fifth are dismissed at 2:45. An hour earlier on Wednesdays for each of those different age groups. And then again, dismissal for our TK and kinder students takes place at 11:30 a.m. through the 3rd of September. So what does dismissal look like? Please reference the video that I'll share out tomorrow with all of you again. It kind of walks through all the different scenarios about how you're going to pick up your child, whether you're walking, whether you're biking, whether you're coming through vehicle. It does a great job of explaining it, but by and large, it's very similar to our arrival procedures. And please make sure that if you have an older student, a 4th or a 5th grader, who you are okay with being dismissed by themselves or with friends to walk or bike home, that you communicate that to your student's teacher at the beginning of the year, and then we'll make sure that we support that as well. Vehicle traffic and pickup. Last year, we kind of added in an additional wrinkle where you would show up with a card with your student's name, teacher's name, and grade level in your front window. And that allowed staff with a megaphone to communicate out to teachers to dismiss the child down to our vehicle pickup zone. And it worked to efficiently return kids, to get kids from their line down to our vehicle pickup zone. Last year, we did deal with some traffic issues. We had a lot of families who were coming far earlier than needed and creating a queue that ended up blocking traffic along Harris and Lee. Again, as I mentioned last spring, people who are blocking traffic are subject to fines and tickets from San Jose Police Department. Please do not show up earlier than your child's dismissal time. It really does create a massive traffic issue. I had to have interactions and communications with neighbors who were negatively impacted. We want to make sure that we're being good neighbors to the people who live in the surrounding community. Please do not queue before your child's pickup time. And then what the procedure will be is if you're coming to pick up your kid, at this pink X out in the street, there will be someone with a megaphone, more than likely me, during most of the start of school. You'll show me your child's name. On the first day of school, we're going to be sending home 2 new cardstock sets of those name, teacher, and grade level cards for you to have in multiple vehicles. You simply hold that up. The person with the megaphone will call out your student's name. Their teacher will dismiss them down to the vehicle pickup zone, where they will actually be assisted into your vehicle by supervision staff. This vehicle traffic flow worked extremely well last year in terms of reuniting families efficiently with their students in a safe fashion. However, we were dealing with a large number of vehicles in a short dismissal window. And so given that we now have 3 dismissal times, we really think that this is going to be efficient and effective for sure. Please, 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 reminder, we are close to a busy street. We have a large number of our families who are walking and biking to school. Please make sure that you're driving safely and you're aware of all pedestrians, bicyclists, and other vehicles around you. Next question I've received is, because we're returning to the days of having multiple dismissal times, what do I do if I happen to have multiple children in multiple grade levels? So we're returning to that staggered dismissal time due to differing instructional minutes at different grade levels. So each grade level has different required minutes that we need to meet, but they vary pretty dramatically. And as a result, we're going to those 3 dismissal times. Bagby is not going to be providing supervision staff after dismissals. Our supervision staff are purely here to help reunite students with a family member. After that point, it is family's responsibility to make sure that they're supervising all children. If you are waiting for an older child, please wait in your vehicle or an alternative location, the church parking lot, down here next to the community pool off of Harris Court. There's a green space. Door Park is a little bit of a walk. But we're asking that we are not using our front lawn or our front sidewalks as a gathering space yet. It is the hope. It is my true hope. One of my favorite parts, like I mentioned before, about our Bagby community is how everybody gathers after school out on our front lawn for Kona Ice or Mr. Frosty and is able to socialize in those different dismissal times, but we can't go there yet. At a certain date and time when COVID-19, we're looking in the rear view mirror at it. I think we can hopefully get back to that, and I want us to get back to that as a school community. But those socializing times and gathering times on our front lawn during school days are not here yet. But I look forward to getting back to them as soon as we can. How can you help your child prepare? Well, continue to practice good hygiene. I'm sure you've already seen them out there, but there's lots of YouTube videos that show your child to thoroughly wash their hands. Another super important skill is practicing them taking their mask on and off, given that at eating time, they're going to have to take it off. A lot of times people continue to have their students keep it latched to their ears and then just drape it down below their chin. My two sons actually happen to have lanyards that work really, really well because then they don't fall on the ground and get dirty, and we've actually loved them. And they found it very easy to put their mask right back up as soon as they're done eating and drinking. Another super important thing to do is start shifting that sleep schedule now. It is, as we all know, whenever there's daylight savings time or we have to adjust our sleep schedule, it's tough. So school starts a week from today at 8:15 a.m. Start adjusting their sleep schedule now. Start practicing those morning routines. Class placements. So in the upcoming days, you will be receiving an email from our Cambrian Enrollment Department with your child's 6-digit ID number. If you already know it, awesome, great. If you don't know it, you will be receiving an email from the Enrollment Department in the upcoming days. On Tuesday, August 17th at 5 p.m., the class placements will be posted to our school's website by student ID and also posted to our front office windows. So you will need that 6-digit ID number to locate your child's class placement. So thank you for joining me this evening. If you happen to have any questions that I did not answer, feel free to raise your Zoom hand and I will happily call on you. And then again, I will be sharing out for anybody who's not going to stick around for the questions answers. If you would like to watch this video again, feel free to reference the YouTube video to this presentation tomorrow that I'll be sending out, along with our arrival and dismissal procedure video. Shannon.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Okay. My question was, will the dismissal include gate C?
Dismissal does not, yes, dismissal does not include gate C.
Okay, and then what is the procedure if your child's attending after school care?
So if they're attending after school care, then those staff members will actually come and pick up your children directly from their teachers and take them to the after school care.
Okay.
We've always assisted, whether it's ASA, ATLC, or some of the outside organizations who actually come by vehicle. Bagby staff will support with the reunification with those staff members.
Okay, but so if we're okay, that's helpful.
Amber.
Two questions, actually. The
Sure.
first one is if we find ourselves in the position where a class does have to quarantine for 2 weeks, will there be any online learning during that period?
As of right now, no. The plan would be so there's going to be kind of a modified quarantine for students who are deemed close contact. So a student just isn't named as a close contact if they happen to be in a classroom. So we're not at the point where if a kid is in a classroom, they're automatically determined to be a close contact. And that's where the teacher's awareness of where students are in relation to another is going to be really important, and the duration for the period of time, because students can actually be from the same classroom, can potentially be considered a close contact, be asymptomatic and be tested and remain in school. So those are some of the new updated guidelines. If there is a need for a student to shift to an outside of school for quarantining purposes, the classroom teacher will be providing an independent study for those kids. But as of right now, there is no guarantee of a virtual component to that.
Got it. And then the second one is you talked a little bit about sanitizing inside the classroom, but are there any efforts for the playground, the cafeteria benches, anything outside?
So the students won't be eating in the cafeteria. They won't be eating at those tables. The playground is too large to sanitize, and actually the public has access to it overnight. We did not sanitize it in the spring, and I'm not aware of any school districts who actually took that level of sanitizing. I think what the evidence seems to show is that this is airborne and in particular generally not transmitted on surfaces. And so sanitizing has certainly some impact, but it's not the most impactful. The most impactful is making sure that adults who are exposed to these students are vaccinated or tested frequently and are wearing masks. So those are going to continue to be our highest level priority.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Stevens, excuse me.
Yeah, hi, sorry, I may have missed this at the beginning, but if a student is in the after school program, the ASA, the pickup's gonna be later in the day, but do we still do the same pickup location? They're gonna bring them out to that curb at a specific
So
time?
yeah, so if you're doing so I'm not exactly sure what ASA and ATLC's protocols are for dismissal. My understanding in years past, they would actually allow dismissal out of our Kirtner parking lot after school hours. We as a school just aren't going to be doing any dismissal out of the Kirtner parking lot. These classes need to bring their kids out to the front lawn to reunify with families. But ATLC and ASA might be doing reunification directly out of that parking lot just because of the proximity.
Okay, and of course that depends on when we actually show up to pick them up.
Exactly. If you're showing up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, my guess is they're going to be doing dismissal out of that parking lot.
In the back off of Kirtner there.
And I think that's probably a more appropriate question, just direct to their staff. But in terms of getting your kid from their teacher's classroom to ATLC or ASA, there will be staff who typically ASA staff go around, collect the students. ATLC staff are out welcoming students into their facilities at the conclusion of each dismissal.
Got it. Okay, so we'll just kind of work out the logistics with them directly on the pickup. It's my guess. It's more of an issue.
I would assume just because of proximity, they'll be doing dismissal out of the Kirtner lot. But again, that's far after dismissal time is over here at school.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Lucio, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Hello, this is Lucio's husband speaking. I just had a quick question about the mask. If the CDC and Governor of California just in the good future decide to say no more mask mandates, are you guys going to follow those rules as well?
That's a question for our board and our district leadership. That's not a site specific decision that I can make. At this point, our board has approved and did so prior to our reopening last fall, that it was a requirement that all students are wearing masks indoors, and that policy is still in place.
So that would be up to them. At the end of the day, it would be up to them, even if they stop the mask mandate in California.
It is, yeah. I mean, there is still local control over conditions within schools.
Perfect. Yep. Thank you for asking the question.
Yep, you're welcome. Susan.
This question has to do with the dismissal times, the first week of school. Grades 1 through 5 still have a full day of school those first 2 days?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Michelle.
Hi there. First time parent going into Bagby here. So question on, thank you. Question on kindergarten. Will there be an opportunity for a virtual kind of back to school or walkthrough for those kindergarten students, since parents won't be able to walk them to their classroom? I appreciate all the safety measures being taken and understand the reasons why. But just looking for a safe alternative for our students to be able to see the classroom and potentially virtually meet their teacher in the safety of their own homes with their parents present.
Totally understand. At this time, there is not a virtual orientation of sorts. There will be a back to school night presentation that is done by teachers to kind of welcome families to their classroom, but that's not until early September. So what the kindergarten team has elected to do is to greet all students on the first day of school out on our front lawn at arrival, and then bring them into campus for that most stressful part, which is actually the separation from families and making sure that they know how to get to their classroom.
Okay, and then I have one more question on the contact sort of tracing.
Yeah.
Will there be extra staff for the kindergartners, for example? I just know that they have a tendency to potentially move around or congregate in more groups. And so if there's a student perhaps that has some exposure in a classroom, it might be a little tougher to contact trace for those students.
Yeah, absolutely. So staff, we do have a dedicated staff member who will be our contact tracer for sure. District staff work with those staff if we do happen to have a positive exposure, and making sure that all protocols and contact tracing is done in a really robust fashion. In terms of supervision, we make sure last spring we had an overabundance of supervision staff, and I'm looking to bring back a large number of those same individuals to make sure that we're supervising kids in particular when they're eating and drinking at recess and lunch. Teachers will be assisting with at recess time, but lunch is supported only by those supervision staff. And so it is our goal to make sure that while kids in particular are eating and drinking, that they are spaced out by 6 feet, that they are away from one another, and that they're following the appropriate protocols. And that seemed to be really effective last spring. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to continue to do that in the upcoming weeks and months.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome again. Kristen.
Hello.
Hello.
So I noted that there is a drop-off window in the morning, so about 10 minutes. I believe you said it was 8:05 to 8:15.
Yeah.
Is there the same amount of time for the dismissal in the afternoons?
Dismissal is, I mean, it's about 15 minutes in the afternoon. Dismissal time is about 15 minutes. We're going to be starting at those times when each grade level is finished with their instructional day. We'll have the classes out there ready to go. And then last year, if you'll recall, as the system and as people got familiar with it, we were actually able to dismiss the entire student body within about 13 minutes. My hope is that we can be even more efficient, given that we're going to be reducing in a staggered, or excuse me, dismissing in a staggered fashion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Kristen, just in terms of your question about arrival, gates are opening at 8:05. If students who are arriving earlier than 8:05, they'll simply queue on the sidewalk like they did last spring. And at 8:05, they'll be allowed into campus. We'll have socially distanced markers out on the sidewalk. We'll make sure that kids are being encouraged to have their masks on, and families as well. And then as soon as the gate, the bell rings at 8:05, we'll welcome them into campus like we did last year.
Okay, so I have one student, he will be starting transitional kindergarten.
Okay.
So those students who are in that grade level,
Yep.
I guess at 8:05, someone will be coming out to assist with those students, the younger students?
Yeah, so you're fortunate in that there's 2 kindergarten classrooms that are directly accessible from our front lawn. That's K1 and K2. K1 is actually our TK classroom. And so all of those students can actually just line up right on the adjacent sidewalk to our traffic circle, or vehicle drop-off zone, and can wait there. And then their teacher will open the door, Ms. HB, and allow those students in. During the first few days of school, all 4 of our TK and kinder teachers are going to be coming out to the front lawn to welcome their kids to classroom. And then if your student is placed in Ms. Stevenson or Ms. Jensen's room, both kindergarten classrooms, they don't have direct access from the front of campus. And so they're going to be making sure that they're coming out here, teaching their kids how to walk from the main entrance of school back to their classroom.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Miko, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that.
No problem. Thanks for the opportunity. I have a question regarding food from home for lunch. What would be the policy to bring food for the kids?
Absolutely okay. If you want to send your child with a meal, you're welcome to do that. We are just providing a free meal at brunch and lunch for every kid as well. But it's completely your family's decision whether or not you want to take advantage of that.
And where the food will be stored? Does it need to be packed in fridge bag or something with ice packs or?
Yeah, so if you are packing your own child's meal, and if there's anything perishable in it, I would certainly want to make sure that it is cool. There are not refrigerators accessible to students, so their lunches will just be in their backpacks for the day. So if you're sending something that needs to stay cool, make sure that you are sending it with an ice pack inside of it.
Got it. Thanks for the information.
You're very welcome. Svetlana.
Yes, hi. Just a quick question about the drop off. So in the extended care, they have that like that whole hour. I guess they open at 7. You can drop them off early. But you said you can't drive up there, the Kirtner. Can we drop off for that in the car or no?
Very good question, Svetlana. So that's something that I'll have to work out with their staff. And if you are dropping off your child to ATLC or ASA, we will certainly permit you to drop off your child back in the Kirtner parking lot. I was speaking solely of students who are coming to school for the start of the day at 8 o'clock or 8:05.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Melissa.
Hey, quick question, Mike. In terms of, we have an after school program, but it's not with the school, it's an outside after school. How does pickup work in that case?
Sorry, could you repeat the end of your question?
How does the pickup work if it's with an after school like bus?
Yeah, and the program is they transport the child from school here to their location.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So then what's just best is just to let our staff know how many children you have and where they'll be going. This is nothing new. Our staff has been working with organizations that transport kids for as long as I've been at Bagby, and I certainly can think of organizations that have partnered for even longer. So it's not an issue. Just let our front office staff know what the organizations are named and what your child's name are, and then we'll work with our supervision staff just to have an awareness of which students need to be matched with the organization when they pull up.
Awesome. And really quick, a second question is that we learned that you guys are providing free lunch. Will you be providing kind of the menu on a weekly basis? I just wanted an idea. What are some examples of what the free lunch is?
Yep. So it's free brunch and free lunch. And yes, there is a district issued menu, and that district issued menu will be going out in their Thursday folder on the first day of school. So you can kind of just see what's going to be available. And I believe they are typically monthly.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Michael. Michael, are you there? All right, we'll come back to Michael. Shoko, apologize if I'm mispronouncing that.
Yes, we have a question during the lunchtime. So if it's raining or if the air quality is not really great, then are they gonna still eat outside or?
Yeah, if we start dealing with rainy days, or if we have AQI air quality warnings, we're going to be having to limit their outdoor time for sure. And if that's the case, then we'll be utilizing our largest indoor spaces, and we'll be limiting the number of students who can use them during a time. And so, I mean, in years past when we had rainy days, students would go into the cafeteria and our Barracuda tank. They would eat in there. They might watch a movie in there. But given the spacing that we'll need to provide while students are eating, we'll probably have to have an adjusted lunch, recess and lunch schedule to allow students to eat without their masks, spaced out appropriately at lower densities in terms of numbers of students.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yep, you're very welcome. Michael, coming back to you.
Can you hear me this time?
Yep, we sure can.
Okay, yeah, my brother logged in. My name's actually Jen. My daughter will be going for the first time to kindergarten. I'm a single mother, so I have a village to help me with her.
Awesome.
And it says there's only
welcome,
2.
We're excited to have you and her.
Thank you. It said that there's only 2 placards that are going to be given, and I'm going to need like 4 for the pickup.
That is not a problem. If you can just do me a favor and email or call the front office, so you can email our front office secretary, Na Halperin, and or me, Michael Kretsch, and we'll make sure that when we print off those for your child, that we have a bunch of those placards for you for your entire village.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Kai.
Hello,
Hello.
this is Dave, actually Kai's dad. He's going to be starting kindergarten.
Awesome.
And I was wondering about the playgrounds.
Yeah.
Is the playground the same for kindergarten as the upper grades?
It is not. The TK and kinder classrooms have their own playground. So
Okay.
if you were logged in earlier in the presentation, I did share an overview from Google Maps of our kinder playground. It has a blacktop area, has some grass space, and a playground, and that's just for our TK and our kinder kids.
Okay, yeah, I saw that as far as the lunch part.
Yep.
And then is that the same as for the combined kindergarten first grade classroom?
There is not a kindergarten first grade classroom this year.
Oh, I see.
So there was a kindergarten. The makeup of our classes shifts based on enrollment.
Okay, I saw it was from a previous year then.
That was from a previous year. That was actually from last year, but you were correct. That last year there was a K1 class, and that K1 class did use that playground. But that playground is allocated to our youngest students. So our 3 kindergarten classrooms and our 1 transitional kinder class.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Excited to meet them. James.
Yeah.
Apologies.
I knew who you were talking about as soon as you said Jason. I'm like, okay.
Just take.
Unfortunately, that happens all the time.
Yep.
So I had a question. The district actually sent out announcements saying they were providing breakfast and lunch.
So the breakfast, yeah, that's a good to clarify. My understanding right now, James, is that it is breakfast food, but it's provided at our recess time, which I would consider more of a brunch time. So it will be at 10 o'clock or 10:25, but it is more breakfast type food.
I was just trying to figure out how you would get people there earlier, and because I've never had people go. I mean, my kids haven't gone there.
No,
but,
yeah, it's not actually like a breakfast prior to the start of school.
Okay, that answers the question. Thank you.
All right, great. Michelle.
Hi, I had a question in regards to contact tracing.
Sure.
Is this limited to just within the classroom? So for example, I think one of the notes you said was kids were able to play on the playground. I wasn't sure if that was masked or unmasked, but effectively, so maybe first question is do they stay masked while during recess? Is it only during meals that they're taking off their mask?
Yeah, so we are going to strongly be encouraging that students are wearing their masks, with the exception of eating, drinking, and taking a mask break. That's going to be kind of like I shared, kind of our culture of taking care of one another. There is no longer the requirement that students have to wear a mask while outside. However, we're going to be trying to build it into our culture that kids wear their mask with the exception of those 3 occurrences. And if they do need to take a mask break or they do need to take a drink of water, that they're stepping away from peers or making sure that they have that distance. So in relation to contact tracing, there is no longer a requirement for contact tracing outside. Contact tracing only relates to exposures of 15 minutes or more at a distance of closer than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All the people who I have answered your question, if you wouldn't mind taking your hand off, I think I'm coming down to the last few, but I just want to make sure that I'm not missing someone or that you don't have a follow-up question. I would hate to miss you if you still have a question, but if you do have another question, keep it up there. Happy to answer it. Slowick.
Hi there, my name is Lucy, and I had 2 questions if possible.
Sure.
I have my first starting TK at Bagby, so we're a new family.
Okay.
Is there a list as far as like school supplies, like a backpack, pencils, whatever? I don't think I've seen anything yet.
Yeah, great question. So some of our grade levels have created class supplies, and we are actually in the process of getting input from the remaining grade levels. A lot of times grade levels will share out that information on the first day. Some reserve it to actually have a conversation with you at back to school night. And what we're going to do is in the next few days is identify with our grade levels when they plan to share out that information to families, and then make sure that we're transparently communicating to all of you. So if you're a TK, we'll make sure that we follow up with our TK and kinder teachers, find out when they're going to be providing their class list, if they are going to be providing one, or if they do need particular materials. and making sure we communicate that in the next few days. So we'll make sure we follow up on that.
Okay, great. And then secondly, if possible, I know someone mentioned a credential for actually dropping off or picking up. We need something in order to pick up our child to validate, or no?
No. If you were to come in during the school day and you need to pick up your child, the person who's picking your child up would need to prove using some state issued ID that they are who they say they are, and that they also will need to be listed on their emergency contact.
Okay, and their
registration. At the conclusion of the day, you will simply have an interaction with the teacher. You will get to know the teacher will get to know you, or the village that's supporting your family. In my particular case, my son who's in first grade here is picked up by my in-laws. So my son's teacher has always gotten to know my in-laws who are picking him up, or it's our neighbors who are walking him home. So you do not need to actually have a specific ID in order to pick up your child by vehicle or walking, just if you were to come and remove them from school prior to the end of the school day.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. Reed.
Hi, I have a quick question.
Yep.
Will there be a list of all the new teachers and the new staff that are in the office? Because I know some people have transitioned from Bagby.
Very good point. We do have a few new staff members for sure. And that's information that we're gonna be sharing out next week for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Miko, I just wanted to circle back to you. Your hand is still raised. If you have a second question, I'm happy to answer it. All right. It doesn't appear that anybody else has any further questions. Thank you all so much for joining. Again, we are so excited to welcome your kids back next Thursday. If you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Reach out via email. And then tomorrow I will be sharing out this video for the whole school community, along with our arrival and dismissal procedures. Please familiarize yourself with those. And we look forward to seeing all of you and your kids back at school. All right, take care and have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.